traditions that tied us together. No peeking or you'll get coal. It was the 1950s, and Christmas Eve in the Carter house meant one thing before bed: a visit with Nan and Grandpa in the sitting room. The children shuffled in with their stockings clutched under their arms. The fire was going strong, and the clock on the mantel ticked away in that steady way it had. Nan had her knitting in her lap. She liked to keep it there, though truth be told, she never made much progress on Christmas Eve. She enjoyed telling stories too much. She always started with the same one, about how when she was a girl, she'd wake up to find an orange in her stocking and a few nuts rattling around in the toe, and once, just once, a shiny penny. She said that she had seen that penny in her mind for years after. Grandpa laughed, proclaiming that she had told that story every year since they were married, then added his bit about the wooden spinning top that he had got one Christmas. He had said that he'd played with it until the paint wore off. The children leaned in like they hadn't heard it before. That was half the fun, hearing the same stories again and again. After a while, their mother clapped her hands and said it was time for bed. Up the children went, clattering on the stairs, too excited to care about being told to hush. With their stockings in their hand, they headed for the little room they all shared. In the Carter house, stockings weren't hung on the mantel like in the rhyme. They always went to the end of the bed. That's how their parents had done it, and Nan and Grandpa too. Peter plopped on his bed with a scowl, holding his stocking up to the light. "There's a hole in the toe," he groaned. "Everything's going to fall out as soon as Father Christmas fills it." Beth, the oldest, let out one of those long-suffering sighs and reached for it. "Give it here. I'll patch it well enough so that you won't lose your tangerine." Peter grinned once the problem was in her hands. He leaned in towards Margaret, who was fussing with her quilt. "Of course, yours won't be filled at all if you peek. Father Christmas hates peekers, and if he catches you looking, all you're going to get is coal." Margaret's eyes grew wide. "I won't peek," she said, pulling the quilt up to her chin. Beth kept stitching, shaking her head. "Stop it, Peter. She'll never sleep." He just shrugged, pleased with himself that he had wound up his little sister after all. That was his job as the only brother. The door to their bedroom opened, and Miss Carter pulled a finger to her lips. "Still awake?" she whispered. "You know Father Christmas can't come if you're chattering." Mr. Carter leaned against the frame, eyes twinkling with the thought that he had tried to look stern. "And if you don't get to sleep soon, the elves might put you on the naughty list." They brought muffled giggles along in all the beds. Margaret ducked under the covers just in case, and Peter pulled a face like he didn't believe a word that his parents said. Beth handed him his mended stocking at last and said, "There, that should hold." One by one, the children laid their stockings carefully at the ends of their beds. The house settled quietly after that. Just the tick of the clock and the groan of the winter wind pushing at the window. It felt like no time at all before morning came. Margaret stirred first, letting out a squeal when she saw the bulge in her stocking. That woke the rest of them up, and they scrambled to get to the foot of the bed, excited to see what treats Father Christmas had left for them. Peter grabbed his stocking and patted the toe to make sure nothing had slipped out. He pulled out a bright tangerine, then a fistful of nuts, and finally a little tin soldier. Margaret pulled out a small doll with painted cheeks and hugged it tightly to her chest. Beth smoothed a ribbon she'd received that matched her hair, and Annie clapped as soon as she saw the little wooden horse in hers. The children could barely keep their excitement to themselves, and before long, Peter suggested that they show Nan and Grandpa what they had received. They rushed downstairs with their stockings swinging at their sides. Nan looked up from her chair as they tumbled into the room, and Grandpa chuckled. The children all started and stared, talking all at once, waving their treasures in the air, their voices tumbling over each other until the room seemed alive. When the Carters thought back on those Christmas years later, it wasn't the toys or the ribbons that stood out. It was the stockings, the teasing, the smell of oranges in the air, and the laughter that always seemed to come in the morning. Those were the things that always stayed. Merry Christmas from the Paawz house. See you tomorrow.